So, Jennifer, you actually teed it up quite nicely. You talked about a trust being able to bypass probate. So, my question to you is, can you share a little bit more about how a trust works? And is there a reason why everybody wouldn't do a trust?
Sure. So let's talk about first what are the differences between a will and a trust. Because many people will come to me and they'll say, I have a will, so my family doesn't have to go through probate if something happens to me. And the truth is, a will must go through probate. It needs to be authenticated by a judge. A will is a relatively simple and short document as compared to a trust. A trust is a longer and more complex document where you're planning for several potentialities. For example, if X happens, then we do this. If Y happens, then this is the plan. So it's longer and more complex because it's dealing with many different scenarios that can take place. A will is effective upon death only as compared to a trust. A trust allows you to do this. You're creating this document, that's your trust, and you are what's called a trustee of your trust. And if you're married, you and your spouse are joint trustees of your trust, which means you manage all of the assets in the trust, your home, your bank, any of those assets. And if something happens to one or both of you, if you're married, or if you're single, if something happens to you, then you are able to nominate a person called a successor trustee. And this is the person who will manage the funds in the trust. So what happens is this: a trust bypasses probate court because you've already written down what you want to happen. And a way that a trust works is that you must fund assets to the trust. And that's telling the government these assets should be distributed and handled according to the terms of this document that I've written. So, your home, I'll use myself as an example again. Carlin and I have a trust. We would not own our home as Carlin and Jennifer Williams. We would own our home in the name of our revocable living trust, right? And that just signals to anyone if we pass away or we become incapacitated, the rules that are set out in this document now apply. We don't need court intervention to tell us what's going to happen. We've already gone through a lot of different alternative scenarios, and we have made the plan ourselves. So, to the second part of your question, should everyone establish a trust? It really depends on your goals. I would say that you might think a trust is only for a wealthy person, but the truth is, if you own a home, if you have minor children, if you own property in multiple jurisdictions, it makes sense to consider a trust. I would say at least have a conversation with someone. I'm really not the attorney who will sell you on something or say, this is how I think it must go. I really want you to convey to me your priorities, what's important for you and your family. And then we go from there. So the second answer is it depends. But I would say you might be surprised to find out that a trust really would probably be the most effective estate planning vehicle for your family.